The way is in training. Never stray from the way. Do not regret what you have done. Know your enemy, know his sword. Become acquainted with every art. Do not let your opponent see your spirit. Fixed formation is bad. Study this well. Pay attention even to life's trifles. Strategy is the craft of the warrior. Immature strategy is the cause of grief. I dreamt of worldly success once. Accept everything just the way it is. Too much is the same as not enough. You can only fight the way you practice. Do not act following customary beliefs. Do nothing which is of no use. Step by step walk the 1,000-mile road. From one thing, know 10,000 things. As far as I'm concerned, I regret nothing. No fear, no hesitation, no surprise, no doubt. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye. Never depart from the way of martial arts. One must make the warrior walk his everyday walk. If the enemy stays spirited, it is difficult to crush him. Respect the gods and Buddhas, but never rely on them. Whatever the way, the master of strategy does not appear fast. True warriors are fierce because their training is fierce. A warrior has no confusion in his mind. This is true emptiness. If you wish to control others, you must first control yourself. If you know the way broadly, you will see it in everything. Even if a man has no natural ability, he can be a warrior. If you do not control the enemy will control you. Get beyond love and grief exist for the good of man. The way is in training. Do nothing which is not of value. Develop intuitive judgment and understanding for everything. Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help. Do not waste time idling or thinking after you have set your goals. The ultimate aim of martial arts is not having to use them. To become the enemy, see yourself as the enemy of the enemy. Consider yourself lightly, consider the world deeply. To win any battle, you must fight as if you are already dead. The purpose of today's training is to defeat yesterday's understanding. It may seem difficult at first, but everything is difficult at first. Fixation is the way to death. Fluidity is the way to life. The path that leads to truth is littered with the bodies of the ignorant. Approach the enemy with the attitude of defeating him without delay. It is difficult to understand the universe if you only study one planet. In battle, if you make your opponent flinch, you have already won. By knowing things that exist, you can know that which does not exist. You may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor. They speak of this dojo and that dojo. They are looking for profit. If you fail to take advantage of your enemy's collapse, they may recover. Generally speaking, The way of the warrior is resolute acceptance of death. All things entail rising and falling timing. You must be able to discern this. With your spirit open and unconstricted, look at things from a high point of view. When you cannot be deceived by men, you will have realized the wisdom of strategy. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. In time, all things work to your advantage when you pursue them with an open heart. Do not let the body be dragged along by mind, nor the mind be dragged along by the body. The warrior is different in that studying the way of strategy is based on overcoming men. Most warriors only perform tricks. The way of the warrior is filled with soul and feeling. If you do not look at things on a large scale, it will be difficult to master strategy. Unless you really understand others, you can hardly attain your own self-understanding. Water adopts the shape of its receptacle. It is sometimes a trickle and sometimes a wild sea. Cutting down the enemy is the way of strategy, and there is no need for many refinements of it. Truth is not what you want it to be. It is what it is, and you must bend to its power or live a lie. You win battles by knowing the enemy's timing, and using a timing which the enemy does not expect. The only reason a warrior is alive is to fight, and the only reason a warrior fights is to win. No man is invincible, and therefore no man can fully understand that which would make him invincible. There is timing in everything. Timing and strategy cannot be mastered without a great deal of practice. There are many ways of understanding simple things, but generally the opposite is true for difficult ideas. The important thing in strategy is to suppress the enemy's useful actions, but allow his useless actions. All men are the same except for their belief in their own selves, regardless of what others may think of them. If the enemy thinks of the mountains, attack like the sea, and if he thinks of the sea, attack like the mountains. When your spirit is not in the least clouded, when the clouds of bewilderment clear away, there is the true void. In contests of strategy, it is bad to be led about by the enemy. You must always be able to lead the enemy about. It is imperative to master the principles of the art of war and learn to be unmoved in mind even in the heat of the battle. When your opponent is hurrying recklessly, you must act contrarily and keep calm. You must not be influenced by the opponent. See to it that you temper yourself with 1,000 days of practice, and refine yourself with 10,000 days of training. If you are not progressing along the true way, a slight twist in the mind can become a major twist. This must be pondered well. The halberd is inferior to the spear on the battlefield. With the spear you can take the initiative. The halberd is defensive. If there is a way involving the spirit of not being defeated, to help oneself and gain honor, it is the way of strategy. In the void is virtue, and no evil. Wisdom has existence. Principle has existence. The way has existence. Spirit is nothingness. If you learn indoor techniques, you will think narrowly and forget the true way. Thus you will have difficulty in actual encounters. When you have attained the way of strategy, there will be nothing that you cannot understand. You will see the way in everything. A bullet from a gun does not make a distinction between practice and combat. You are training to be one and the same way in your life. When you attack the enemy, your spirit must go to the extent of pulling the stakes out of a wall and using them as spears and halberds. You should not have a favorite weapon. To become overfamiliar with one weapon is as much a fault as not knowing it sufficiently well. When you appreciate the power of nature, knowing the rhythm of any situation, you will be able to hit the enemy naturally and strike naturally. In all forms of strategy, it is necessary to maintain the combat stance in everyday life, and to make your everyday stance your combat stance. If you want to learn the craft of war, ponder over this book. The teacher is as a needle, the disciple is as thread. You must practice constantly. The bow is tactically strong at the commencement of battle, especially battles on a moor, as it is possible to shoot quickly among the spearmen. Whatever your determination or willpower, it is foolish to try to change the nature of things. Things work the way they do because that is the way of things. When you decide to attack, keep calm and dash in quickly, forestalling the enemy. Attack with a feeling of constantly crushing the enemy, from first to last. People in this world look at things mistakenly and think that what they do not understand must be the void. This is not the true void, it is bewilderment. Perception is strong and sight weak. In strategy it is important to see distant things as if they were close, and to take a distanced view of close things. Study strategy over the years and achieve the spirit of the warrior. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. This is truth. When you sacrifice your life, you must make fullest use of your weaponry. It is false not to do so, and to die with a weapon as yet undrawn. When in a fight to the death, one wants to employ all one's weapons to the utmost. I must say that to die with one sword still sheathed is most regrettable. Always return your weapon along the same path it traveled out on. In this way you can use it again without having to relocate and rethink our attitude. When the enemy starts to collapse, you must pursue him without the chance of letting go. If you fail to take advantage of your enemy's collapse, they may recover. It is difficult to realize the true way just through sword fencing. Know the smallest things and the biggest things, the shallowest things and the deepest things. A man cannot understand the art he is studying if he only looks for the end result without taking the time to delve deeply into the reasoning of the study. Anger. Control your anger. If you hold anger toward others, they have control over you. Your opponent can dominate and defeat you if you allow him to get you irritated. Determine that today you will overcome yourself of the day before. Tomorrow you will win over those of lesser skill, and later you will win over those of greater skill. The spirit of defeating a man is the same for 10 million men. The strategist makes small things into big things, like building a great Buddha from a 1-foot model. To cut and slash are two different things. Cutting, whatever form of cutting it is decisive, with a resolute spirit. Slashing is nothing more than touching the enemy. Second is the way of the merchant. The winemaker obtains his ingredients and puts them to use to make his living. The way of the merchant is always to live by taking profit. The true science of martial arts means practicing them in such a way that they will be useful at any time, and to teach them in such a way that they will be useful in all things. From inside fortifications, the gun has no equal among weapons. It is the supreme weapon on the field before the ranks clash. But once swords are crossed, the gun becomes useless. Whatever the way, the master of strategy does not appear fast. Of course, slowness is bad. Really skillful people never get out of time, and are always deliberate, and never appear busy. Crossing at a ford occurs often in a man's lifetime. It means setting sail, even though your friends stay in harbor. Knowing the route, knowing the soundness of your ship and the favor of the day. Do not sleep under a roof, carry no money or food. Go alone to places frightening to the common brand of men. Become a criminal of purpose, be put in jail, and extricate yourself by your own wisdom. Speed is not part of the true way of strategy. Speed implies that things seem fast or slow, according to whether or not they are in rhythm. Whatever the way, the master of strategy does not appear fast. You should not have any special fondness for a particular weapon or anything else, for that matter. Too much is the same as not enough. without imitating anyone else. You should have as much weaponry as suits you. As if with the nut and flower, the nut has become less than the flower. Both those teaching and those learning are concerned with coloring and showing off their technique, trying to hasten the bloom of the flower. It is said the warrior's is the twofold way of pen and sword, and he should have a taste for both ways. Even if a man has no natural ability, he can be a warrior by sticking assiduously to both divisions of the way. Fourthly, the way of the artisan, the way of the carpenter, is to become proficient in the use of his tools. First to lay his plans with true measure, and then perform his work according to plan. Thus he passes through life. Do not let your spirit be influenced by your body, or your body be influenced by your spirit. Be neither insufficiently spirited or over-spirited. An elevated spirit is weak, and a low spirit is weak. Do not let the enemy see your spirit. Imitation is the surest form of flattery and failure. I am not interested with your talk about my ideas. I am more interested in your applying them to your life. If you do not, then you are essentially not in accord with your own mind. In strategy, your spiritual bearing must not be any different from normal. Both in fighting and in everyday life you should be determined though calm. Meet the situation without tenseness yet not recklessly. Your spirit settled yet unbiased. Also, by training, you will be able to freely control your own body Conquer men with your body, and with sufficient training you will be able to beat 10 men with your spirit. When you have reached this point, will it not mean that you are invincible? There is timing in the whole life of the warrior, in his thriving and declining, in his harmony and discord. Similarly, there is timing in the way of the merchant, in the rise and fall of capital. All things entail rising and falling timing. You must be able to discern this. The way of the warrior does not include other ways, such as Confucianism, Buddhism, certain traditions, artistic accomplishments, and dancing. But even though these are not part of the way, if you know the way broadly, you will see it in everything. Thirdly, the gentleman warrior, carrying the weaponry of his way. The way of the warrior is to master the virtue of his weapons. If a gentleman dislikes strategy, he will not appreciate the benefit of weaponry. So must he not have a little taste for this. Do not think dishonestly. Distinguish between gain and loss in worldly matters. Develop intuitive judgment and understanding for everything. Perceive those things which cannot be seen. Pay attention even to trifles. Do nothing which is of no use. No man is invincible, and therefore no man can fully understand that which would make him invincible. Even with complete and thorough study, there is always the possibility of being defeated, and although one may be expert in a particular form, mastery is something a man never stops seeking to attain.